Before we get started, I have a quick update on today's episode. The content for today's podcast is based on a talk I gave back in 2008. In the process of cutting and pasting from the 9-year-old PowerPoint, the credits were dropped and not included in the script. Clearly, an oversight I should have caught. Credit for the names of the myths of innovation we talk about in today's show should go to Scott Birkin's book titled The Myths of Innovation. For a link to his book, go over to the show notes over at killerinnovations.com. We apologize to Scott for the oversight. Here is today's show.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovators Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Well, welcome to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney, and welcome to this week's show. We are in the studio live today. We actually have our new furniture in, so we're actually finally getting this project done, wrapped up on the build-out of both the radio studio and the video studio. We are live on Facebook, as we are most times when I'm here in the studio, short of a technical glitch for some reason. So you can join us over on Facebook. The best way to get a hold of us on Facebook is just hop over to killerinnovations.com/live, and you actually get all of the options. You can connect on us in Zoom, you can connect over on Facebook Live, and you can connect over onto BizTalk Radio, who is the syndicator for this show, as we are live on roughly 35 stations, both on Saturday and Sunday, across the U.S. talk radio stations. So we're most recently new stations. We're like Dallas, Fort Worth, St. Louis, Fort Myers, Florida. So if you're listening to us on any of the stations, let us know what station you're listening to. Just drop me a note over at phil@killerinnovations.com. We'd like to hear where the listeners are at if you're listening to us live on the show. So first off, I want to thank all of you who do join us on Facebook, because you have an opportunity to submit questions, and then we answer them live during the commercial breaks here on the radio show. Now, the last couple of weeks, we've had so many questions that we've actually stayed over. We end the show on time. We have to, because of our syndication and the affiliates that are out there broadcasting the show, to make commercial breaks and get ready for the next show. But if you are on Facebook Live, we actually, for the last 2 shows, have extended into after the radio show goes off the air and continue to answer questions. So if you've got a question, you're not quite sure whether you should ask it, ask it. Save them up. You can join in on the Sundays that we're live here in the studio, and we take those questions. And if we have so many questions, we'll stay after and we'll answer them, both me, myself, and the guests. So for today's topic, we are going to address a topic area that I've talked about before, but it's back in 2011 on my blog. So this is the first time I've really covered it on the radio show or the podcast. But one I think that is actually helpful for people who are struggling, maybe have some self-doubt on your ability to really be creative and to really innovate. So what is the topic today? It's the 5 myths of innovation. Now, what these myths kind of get built up as almost rules and laws around innovation. It is the thing that we kind of, there's this perception of how innovation happens, and some people out in the world that are in the innovation game actually help permeate these myths. So I'm here to dispel these myths, get them off the table for you in such a way that you can actually go forward from the standpoint of not having them be an anchor or injecting self-doubt. So the first myth is what I call the myth of the eureka moment. So this is, you slip on a bar of soap, you bang your head, you say, woo, eureka, I've got this magic idea. Now, I can tell you over my entire career, that has happened exactly 0 times. There's always some form of inspiration that has happened. And so in this case, what was it that inspired this myth? It was the Archimedes Eureka, or at least the story. Archimedes was trying to figure out this crown of gold and whether or not it was really made of gold or not. And he supposedly sank himself into a full tub of water, and the water overflowed, and he figured out that he could take the crown, actually dip it into the water, measure the amount of water that overflowed to determine the volume of the crown. So that was the theory. Now, nobody knows if the story is really true or not, but let's face it, even Archimedes, it wasn't really a true thought of nothing, and all of a sudden you had this eureka moment. It really came about because of his education, his experience, his keen observation. There's a whole mix of things that led to the idea of when he even sat in the bathtub, assuming the story is even true. So from that standpoint, the eureka, even in that, the traditional eureka of this just lightning bolt, strikes you and you've got this magical idea, there's a lot of groundwork. There's a lot of subconscious activities that's going on. A lot of your reading, what you watch, what you learned in school, what you've learned on the job, all of those things coming together in order to drive that eureka moment. So the next myth, and this one I'm going to spend a little bit more time on because this is one that drives me crazy, and that is the myth that the best ideas win. In the innovation game, we all tend to think it's about the idea. It really is about that, I've got that really great idea, and it's the idea that really determines the quality of the innovation. Or if I really have a really good idea, it's going to lead to an innovation. Well, guess what? That is not the case. This is what innovation looks like. It is messy. You got to have an idea. You're going to make a lot of pivots, turns, changes, transitions. The path you thought you were going to be on is going to be completely different. And in many cases, there's outside things that really will influence on whether or not that idea is ever going to really make it. Whether or not that idea is really going to hit the mark. And they're outside of your control. Some of them may be in your control, like doing really good testing, validating the idea with a good cross-section of customers, getting input, iterating, don't get locked into the final idea too early, work it. But some of the things are outside your control. And the number one item that trips up everybody, it's tripped me up so many times, and I still can't get it right, and that is timing. The saying is the difference between a good idea and a great idea is not about the idea or the technology or even the fundamentals. The thing that really trips it up is the timing. So that's the difference between what I would call a good idea and a great idea. Not the idea, it's the timing. Market timing. Is the market ready? Is there some trend that's happening in society at that moment? Is there something else that is driving that you can hop on that timing and you can hit it right at the right time, and all of a sudden you've got a major win. What happens in many cases is everybody gets so wrapped up in the idea, and they just think, oh, if I invest now, I can be way ahead of the market, I can be the first one out there, and then the end result is you'll be the first one to launch, and therefore you'll garner the lion's share of the success. Well, the one thing you have to remember is the fact that in many cases, the leaders in today's market were not the first entrants. Google was not the first search engine. Facebook was not the first social media. Tesla was not the first electric car. Go on down the list. Apple was not the first personal computer, blah, 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 blah. IBM was not the first computing company, blah, 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 blah. You can go down through the entire list. It's not about being first entrant into the market. It's about throttling your investment and then getting the investment that drives the timing to be right when the market's there to reward you from the standpoint of buying whatever it is you're producing. So timing is absolutely just critical. The other fact of the matter is, and as this chart shows, the path is not linear. So you have to be careful that you don't get over enthusiastic early in the idea because you think that, oh, the best idea wins. And therefore, you overinvest. You actually overinvest in the innovation. You put so much money into it that you actually burn through the capital. This feeds into one of the laws that I am a big believer in, is the law of 18. The law of 18 says that in any given project, if you're getting funding from your boss or from your organization or even from venture capitalists in some cases, you basically have 18 months to show real deliverables, right? When I was CTO at HP, this law played out in spades many times. Because why? Mid-year, you could get an executive all excited, they give you a little bit of money. Now you get into that first budget cycle, okay? They're still excited, you get your budget. Now you hit the second budget cycle, and you still haven't delivered, you're still working it, it's messy, like this says here. Guess what? You're gonna get cut, you're gonna get whacked, you're gonna get delayed. And so from that standpoint, this all ties into the timing. If you keep your spend low, you can buy that time until the timing is right and when you want to deliver the innovation. So this is the one myth that just drives me crazy. I'm still working it. I don't get it right. And it's one that is the hardest to resolve. So with that, we've covered only 2 of them. We're going to cover the rest of them as we go through the rest of the myths of innovation. So stay right there. And when we come back, we're going to pick them up and go through all 6. And hopefully these will dispel kind of the things that are holding you back from not wanting to drive your idea or drive your innovation forward because of one of these myths is holding you back. So stay right there. And remember, if you're on Facebook, hop on over and ask your questions. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
Biz Talk Radio.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovators Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
So we're going to pick it up right where we left off on the 5 myths of innovation. We're sorry about that little technical glitch. And so what we're going to talk about today is we're going to pick it up at number 3. Number 3 is one that also is one that drives me a little bit nuts, which is this myth about that there's some kind of magic method, that there is some, magic formula that is out there that is, that some consultant has derived. You follow their magic 10-step process, and boom, you have it. You can do the innovation, and that there's some kind of thought that there's some specialized DNA that is, that you're either born with it or you're not. And it's all bogus. This is the one that just drives me nuts, right? That there's some magic book, that some consultant has done some deriving. And what really drives me nuts on this one is the fact that a lot of the consultants that are out there and running this actually haven't been part of innovation. They are outsiders who are trying to do this analysis. Okay, let me see what Elon does it. Let me see how Steve Jobs does it. Let me write a book about the 5 innovators and immediately derive kind of the magic. And therefore now I've derived this magic formula because of some insight. Let me tell you, unless you've been in the innovation game, you just have no clue as to, what the issue is or how hard it really is. It's kind of like, if you had a family member that was sick and you took him to a doctor, would you trust a doctor who just read books to operate on your family member, to perform this really intricate surgery? No, right? You'd want a doctor who was trained under a doctor who had done it before, who would supervise them, watch them actually do it, right? Let them, be part of procedures, watch me, then you do it, we do it together, and then I watch you do it, right? Those are the kind of doctors you would want operating on your family members. Why would you accept anything less for someone doing the innovation activities for your organization, right? In fact, there's a blog post over on filmk.com that kind of discerns out, if you're going to hire an innovation coach or an innovation mentor, what are the questions you should ask them before you even contract with them, before you even hire them? And the answers to those questions is pretty telling as to whether or not these are the individuals that you want advising you, giving you advice, and starting you down a path. So the point here is that there really isn't, what I would call a magic formula. The fact is that in the case of organizations, every organization is different. Your culture is different. Your methodologies are different. Your language is different. There are lots of different ways in which your organization operates, and you have to match that innovation process to that organization. You can't just pick up a process that worked at Apple or worked at HP right? You can't even take exactly what I did at HP and just pick it up and drop it in. I had this kind of as an upfront experience. A gentleman who's now become a friend is head of innovation at a large company, big follower of the podcast. In the early years, asked for some help. I shipped him up all my presentations, how we did it at HP. He took those, mushed them all up, presented it to them. The organization accepted them. Then he tried to implement them. Face plant. Total failure. Why? Because it was something foreign. It was, it used a different language, different terms. It was all wrapped around HP's culture, not their culture. So he asked for help. I went and visited. We talked through it. We went through this exercise of really adapting some of those things and bringing in things from other organizations and creating really a custom process for that company and that organization. And then, wild success. First off, you got to match it to the language. You got to use the terms that people are familiar with. If you're coming in, you're taking something out of a book, and you're going to use those terms inside of an organization, trust me, the antibodies are going to come out in force. Because, it's one more thing. Someone's read a book over the weekend, and we're going to do this now experiment. You've got to think through it. You've got to adapt it to your organization. You need to adapt it to your culture. You need to apply it to what it is you do and how you're doing it. And so therefore, that becomes one of the key steps. And so therefore, it's not about going and finding the consultant that's got the best idea. It's about finding and stealing from the best. Now, the other part of this is this concept of, I got the special gift, the special skill, you didn't, oh, sorry, you just didn't get the blessing, right? Bogus. We all have it inside of us. We all have it. We're all born naturally creative. You're creative, I'm creative. My grandkids who are actually here visiting me on my ranch today, they've got it. They reinforce it with me every day, just watching them running around and building forts and doing all kinds of, creative play. We all have it. We basically have unlearned it over our years, right? We've been told we're not creative. We're told to conform, right? And there's a whole set of past shows and blog posts on creativity, personal creativity, and personal innovation. But trust me, we all have it. You need to just exercise your creative muscle, just like if you were going to the gym. There's a series of exercises. Just search for exercises on both killerinnovations.com and over at Phil McKinney. And there's actually a whole series of steps that tells you what I do to exercise my creative muscle so that it stays tuned up and ready to go. And trust me on this one, it is hard. It's just like if you're going to run a marathon. You're not going to all of a sudden wake up on a Friday and go, I'm going to run the Boston Marathon on Monday, right? You've been a couch potato for years. That's not going to work. You get up on Monday and you walk around the block. Then you walk around a couple times around the block. And then you work yourselves up. If you want to be in the innovation game, you have to exercise your creative muscle just like you would exercise any other muscle. And so go check out some of our content from the past, all free. You can check it out. And there's some great insights there. So with that, we're going to take another quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to pick it up and continue our discussions on these myths of innovation and what they really mean for you, and not to let them hold you back and prevent you from taking your idea and doing something with it. So with that, stay right there. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break right here on Killer Innovations.
Biz Talk Radio.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovators Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
And welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are going to continue our discussions on the 5 innovation myths. But before we get started, I want to do one quick thing, and that is to basically thank our sponsors. Sponsors are important for us. It helps us deliver the show. It helps us produce the content that gets handed out for free. And just so you know, I mean, people have been listening to the show for quite some time. Any money left over from any of the sponsorships, we donate to the 2 charities, and we actually donate all of our national ad spots to the charities. So therefore, the sponsors are more than just sponsoring the show. They're actually partnering with me with my 2 nonprofits, Hacking Autism and also Pioneer Education Africa, where we're building schools and showing African countries how to model and rethink entrepreneurship, creativity, innovation, education in Africa. So today's sponsor for this show is Zoom. Zoom provides the video collaboration technologies when we have guests in the studio. Zoom, I've been using Zoom for over a year, long before they ever even became a sponsor. And let me tell you, the video, audio, the sharing capabilities of Zoom is just second to none. And like I said, I've been using it for a year. And in fact, in my day job, probably 6 months ago, we switched over. We threw out all the other video collaboration technologies, and we went to exclusively Zoom. And every day I hear it from my 200 staff around the world about how much they love it. And it's not just me, the number of companies that are now using Zoom, they just recently closed on a round of investment of $100 million from Sequoia. And on top of that, Gartner just put them in the Magic Quadrant. And the one reason, let me tell you the real gut reason why Zoom is so great is because it's the first video collaboration technology that I have ever used. And look, I was developing some of these technologies in my previous life. This is the first one that doesn't suck. So give it a try. Get a free account. Hop on over to killinnovations.com/Zoom. Doesn't matter if you're a small business, large business, individual, family. You get to have 50 collaborators simultaneously in a call. That's up to the maximum, free of charge. So hop on over to killinnovations.com/Zoom and check that out. Okay, let's pick it up where we are with the 5 innovation myths that are the things that kind of hold back on the innovation side. So this myth is one that I hear all the time, right? It's the lone inventor. I came up with the idea. I'm the founder, and off I go. Let me tell you something. Innovation is a team sport. If you go back and you look at all of the big companies that are out there, 90% of them were all created by partners working together. Hewlett-Packard with Bill Hewlett and David Packard, Apple, Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak. Intel was actually a whole group that had left Fairchild Semiconductor to found Intel. Even Standard Oil, right? We think of John D. Rockefeller. I just finished up a phenomenal biography on John D. Rockefeller. Unbelievable insight. Even in the case of Standard Oil, Rockefeller had partners. He only owned about 30% of Standard Oil at any one time, but he had partners. You could think, Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison had 100 engineers in his team, right? So whether it was him or it was really his cadre of team that he had around him. And so in this case, it really is this whole concept of the fact that it is a team sport. And this myth of it being, a sole, inventor is just absolutely bogus. It is not the case. And so from that standpoint, if you're thinking about starting a company, find a partner. Find somebody to work with. Find somebody who fills in the skills gaps you don't have. I'm technical, not a sales guy, right? I've got product concepts, product ideas. I'm not a finance guy, right? I'm not so find people in those skill sets that you don't have, bring them in, treat them fairly, make them equal partners, and go knock it and go kill it, right? So keep in mind this whole myth of the fact that it's the myth of this lone inventor just is not the case. In many cases, this holds back a lot of innovators because you're sitting there going, well, I don't know how to get started. I've got the basic idea, but I don't know how to write code, or I've got the basic idea, I know how to do code, but I don't know how to set up a company, and I don't know how to run Facebook ads to sell this product. I don't know these things, so therefore I'm not going to do anything. Guess what? Everybody's got gaps. There is nobody that's got 100% all perfect skill sets in all areas that you need to be successful with innovation. So find a partner that fills in the gaps. Don't hire someone that's just like you with the same skill sets. Find somebody that fills in an area you don't have. Be clear on responsibilities, and then just go crush it. Just go crush it. Now this is one, I've saved this one for last specifically because my team loves it when I share this one, right? Because then they just throw it back in my face all the time, right? And this is the myth that your boss knows more than you, right? Nobody knows everything. Just as I said in the last myth, the same applies for this myth. There is no boss that knows everything. Now there are a lot of bosses that are autocratic, micromanaging, they want to get down and control everything and tell you exactly how they want every little thing done. Those are not managers that are going to have any form of innovation impact, right? You want people on your team who are diverse, who are not afraid to speak up, because guess what? If I hired everybody that was just like me and I could control them and I could micromanage them, what do I end up with? I end up with a team of robots. And who wants a team of robots? Nobody wants a team of robots, right? And this has been hard in some of the organizations that I've moved into over my career because they've been in the other environment where they've had managers and leaders who haven't wanted to raise up any questions or any issues. They never want to speak up. They want the boss to tell them what they need to do. So what do we do next? What do we do? No, you go figure it out. You're the expert in X, Y, Z. You go figure it out and come back with me and share with me what your plan is. I don't know how to run your side. I don't know how to do that. You need to go do that. And this is one that you can quickly look at any organization, look at the management style, and you can tell right away on whether or not they're going to be successful when it comes to the innovation game. This issue of hierarchical, do as I say, never question the boss, follow the hierarchy to go back up, and give them don't jump the ladder to get up to the top. Work it such that you tell your boss and then you hope they tell them. No, right? In my organizations, I keep telling people over and over again, and sometimes they don't believe me until they actually try it out. And that is them being able to come directly to me. You may be 2-3 levels down below me. Come to me. If you got an idea, you got something, you want to bounce it off, catch me in the hallway, catch me in the lunchroom, whatever. Let's just come around. Let's just toss it around, see where it goes. Or if there's an issue, concern, something you think I should be aware of, tell me. So this myth is very limiting because it pushes everybody down to where nobody wants to speak up. Nobody wants to throw the idea up. They all want to be robots, right? Nobody wants an organization full of robots. That is not an organization that's going to deliver this whole the innovation value that's needed with this emerging innovation economy. Your organization depends on your willingness to speak up. And if an organization is not willing to accept you speaking up, then maybe you should be thinking about a different organization, quite honestly, right? If you're going to win in this innovation game, you hire your boss. When you choose to go work from somebody, you are hiring your boss. Are you as careful and as methodical in hiring your boss? You should be, because that person is going to dictate your career success for the next 3, 5, 10 years. So be selective. Who you're going to hire as your boss, right? Nobody wants robots. I don't want a robot working for me, and I don't want to be a robot. So this myth that the boss knows more is absolutely bogus. Nobody can know more. And you want a boss that's going to be open to other people's ideas, any other people's inputs. You want to be challenging, but respectful. You want to push back and be respectful while you're pushing back. Those are the kinds of organizations that are going to have innovation success. So with that, we're going to take yet one more commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to summarize the 5 myths of innovation, give you some closing comments and thoughts on that as we wrap up the show. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back after this quick commercial break. You're listening to Kill Innovations on the BizTalk Radio Network.
BizTalk Radio.
This is Killer Innovations, a show about ideas, creativity, and how you can innovate. Welcome to the Innovators Garage, where you learn to create your next game-changing killer innovation.
Welcome back to Killer Innovations. I'm your host, Phil McKinney. We are just coming back into the final segment here. We've been talking today about the 5 innovation myths. And so what we're going to do, let's do a quick run through of those 5 innovation myths that we talked about. Just look at some closing comments. It's always one of those cases where I kind of run through them and then I get to the end and I go, I should have said this. So I get a second chance on this one because we're going to go back through them one more time. So the 5 myths of innovation that we have talked through. Right? First one up is the myth of the eureka moment. So I'm going to get hit by lightning and woohoo, I got this magic idea, and then we're off and running. I've got this fully formed idea in my head. 30 years in the innovation game, it's happened 0 times with me. Now I get inspirations, I'll see something and something will click, but then it takes more work, but I also realize that there is inspiration that led up to that fed in kind of my subconscious so that I saw it and recognized it when it appeared in front of me. But this myth that you're not going to be innovative unless you get this magic inspiration. No, innovation comes from hard work. You just work it, and work it. Exercise that creative muscle, and then you'll find that opportunity, that idea that will come to you. The other is the myth that the best idea wins. It's not. Idea is important, but it's actually not one of the critical factors. Assuming you've got the idea, timing becomes one of the most critical factors for your idea to see light. You can have this great idea and you can invest in it. I've had ideas that 25 years ago that I was working on, and guess what? 10 years ago, the market finally appeared and opened up for it. So it's a situation where, sometimes you may have an idea, timing may not be right, put it on the shelf, pause it, come back to it years later, and the timing may be right for that idea. Third, the myth of the magic method. There are a lot of consultants running around out there that they've got the magic 10-step process, and if you follow it, guess what? You're going to be successful. Bogus. Absolute bogus. Right? There is no magic method. It's hard work. It's a skill that you can learn, a skill you can practice, and a skill you can become proficient at. The reason people struggle with innovation is they just haven't exercised their creative muscle. They haven't exercised and worked it and built up that muscle. And organizations need to build up their muscle in order to be in the innovation game. You just can't go hire 5 people or anoint a chief innovation officer and boom, magically you're going to have all this great creative output, right? So these consultants that are out there, and like I said before, many of them are outsiders. They're not even in the innovation game. They've never been part of an innovation team. They can't even name one innovation that they were part of where they came up with the idea and took it to market and had it go ship 5, 10, 100 million products, right? So be careful. Don't be thinking that someone's going to come, snake oil salesperson, someone coming to you and selling you a magic innovation method. It just doesn't exist. The myth of the lone inventor. You can do it on your own. You need the inspiration. You can do it all your own. It doesn't work. None of us are skilled in everything you need to bring an innovation to market. Nobody. Everybody needs teams. And the great companies that are out there, companies like HP, where I was CTO, And other great companies that are out there, you go back and you look in their history, there was some team that came around it. In 95% of the case, there's a few out there where it might be the lone inventor. But even in those cases, the story may be about the lone inventor. But when you really go back, there was actually somebody that worked alongside them in the early days of an idea. And then the myth that your boss knows more than you. Now, this is the one that my team loves the most because they will throw it in my face every time, right? You know, it's one of those things I got to be careful. You know, my team loves to quote my book back to me, right? In this case, you know, the fact that I'm admitting that even as a CEO now, I don't know everything. I don't, right? I hire really smart people that are in technical areas that I have no technical expertise. Look, I was a software engineer by training. Originally, I went to school to be an architect, right? But I've written a lot of code, created a lot of software products, right? But I haven't sat down and wrote serious code in more than a decade, right? I do a little bit of PHP on my website just to prove to myself that I can still do it, and I get a little thrill out of it. But I haven't done any kind of serious products in a decade, or maybe even 2 decades now, right? So the fact that you're in a leadership role, if you are in a leadership role, I believe in the model of servant leadership. The leaders are there to serve the staff. Your job is to keep the BS off their backs so that they can do their best creative work. It's about acquisition of talent, not in controlling talent. That's what good bosses, good leaders are. It's not about being smarter than everybody else in the room. It's about knowing how to mentor and coach talent, helping them grow and helping get the best out of them for the creativity you need, the innovations you need in your organization to be successful. So those are the 5 myths from today's show. Hopefully you found this informative, and hopefully maybe 1 or 2 of these ones are dispelled from anything that you thought of that maybe were holding you back from taking or creating that idea and taking that to market and having the success that you want to have with innovation and creativity. So with that, we're going to wrap up today's show. I want to remind everybody we have the contest going, so if you want an opportunity to come onto the show, sit here at the table with me, have a conversation, maybe talk about an idea that you've got rattling around in your head, hop on over. You can go over to the killinnovations.com site. You can go down to the bottom. There's a little microphone image with a little banner ad. You can click on that. Or you can just go killinnovations.com/contest. All the rules are there. All you need to do is take the best killer innovation that you've seen out there, or multiples of them, post each one out to social media with the hashtag killer innovation. We will track that, select a winner in March 1st, and that winner will win an opportunity to come here on the show and have a chance to a national audience, international audience with the podcast, and tell their story. Always, show notes are available over at killinnovations.com. Check those out. Also, the entire archive going back to March of 2005. Yes, we're coming up on season 13 here soon. And also, I do a lot of work over on social media throughout the week, so follow us over on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Also, we announced last week that we've joined up with the Innovators Network, so check out their site, theinnovators.network. Check that site out. And with that, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.
The opinions you hear on Biz Talk Radio are those of the hosts, callers, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect those of this station, Biz Talk Radio, its management, or advertisers. The information on Biz Talk Radio does not constitute a recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or service. If you have any questions about Biz Talk Radio, contact us at 817-274-1609 or at biztalkradio.com. Biz Talk Radio.
Autism. 1 out of every 68 children in America are impacted across every race, ethnicity, and socioeconomic group. If you aren't directly affected, someone you know is. Today's world doesn't support those on the autism spectrum. It needs hacking for us to truly welcome those who think and create differently than ourselves. We're Hacking Autism, a nonprofit charity with a mission to hack therapy, technologies, and career opportunities that improve the personal and professional lives of people on the autism spectrum. We believe that everyone can play a role in supporting those on the autism spectrum so that they can show their unique talents and abilities in this fast-paced world. You aren't powerless in this fight. Use your gifts and talents to make a positive impact. Join us in making a difference. Go to hackingautism.org to learn more.
Carpenters have their hammers and saws, chefs have their outfitted kitchens, and musicians have their instruments. A craftsman's ability to do their job is dependent on having the right tools. So where does an innovator, someone who takes an idea and makes it real, find the right tools to do their job? Outfit your innovator's garage by visiting innovation.tools. Innovation.tools is an online store created by innovators for innovators. It's where you will find tested and proven tools to help you create that next great product or service. These tools include books, audio training, video training, brainstorming how-tos, and much, much more. And for a limited time, listeners of Killer Innovations will get 25% off on your first order by using the discount code RADIO at checkout. And 100% of our profits from your purchases will be donated to charity. So go to innovation.tools and create that next great innovation.
Rwanda is a shining example of how the global community can come together and rebuild a country after a devastating genocide. But there is still more that needs to be done. In the rural villages, students are crowded into schools with no electricity, no running water, no internet access, and limited sanitation. Will these kids be ready to continue the rebuilding of Rwanda, or will they be dependent upon others? Through education and employment, boys and girls have an equally promising future that can transform their struggling communities. For $20 a month, a child can be educated and a community strengthened. By supporting Pioneer Education Africa, a 501c3 charity, you partner with others to provide education that will prepare a generation to take on the task of self-reliance. 100% of the proceeds received go directly to the education of the children. Visit pioneereducationafrica.com to find out more.